All right, welcome. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us in person and on the live stream. My name's Anna Palmer. I'm the CEO and one of the founders of Punchbowl News, joined by Jake Sherman, another founder of Punchbowl News, for our last in-person event of 2022. Very exciting. Woohoo. All right, we are thrilled to be joined by Representative Jason Smith, the Republican from Missouri, who is in the hunt to be the next chair of Ways and Means Committee. He's going to be joining us as this final editorial part of the conversation. Afterwards, we're going to be joined by Apollo Management's Joe Maroney to talk about kind of what he's doing and their sustainable investing. A big thank you to Apollo Management, for their partnership in this three-part series, Investing in Tomorrow Today. So with that, let's welcome Congressman Smith to the stage. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you so much. Jake, you want to kick us off here this morning?
Yeah, all of these, we're streaming this live to the House Republican Steering Committee, so this is all going to go. This is all part of the HUD. So we'll start with a few news of the day questions. Let's start for what Rich Rubin is here for, which is tax extenders. Give me we are sitting here December 7th, 9 days ahead of the funding deadline, 20-something days, 24 days ahead of the end of the year. Is a tax extender package going to happen?
Jake, Anna, thank you so much for being with you. The sausage is being made internally like you've never seen right now. I think that if you look at a huge package by December 16th or even the end of the year, I would give it a 51% likelihood that it's going to happen. So flip a coin. It's clearly there. There's a lot of conversations going on right now amongst the tax provisions, but let's just be honest about it. Most of the tax provisions are very bipartisan. Most of it, whether it's R&D, whether it's the accelerated depreciation, numerous extenders. Where you see a lot of the gridlock is expansion of like the child tax credit that was in the American Rescue Plan. That's costing way over $150 billion with no work requirements. That's where you're seeing the division. If we wanted a tax extenders package that was universal for bipartisanship, there's a lot to get done, and it could get done just like this. But unfortunately, the game up here, it's like, well, we want this if you take that.
Well, you don't begrudge them. They're going to lose power. They want to get with their policies into place, right?
They got 27 days. I'm counting them down. Cannot wait.
All right, let's talk about Trump's taxes. 6 years of former President Donald Trump's taxes were handed over to Democrats on the Ways and Means Committee last week after a very long legal fight. Chair Richie Neal has been very tight-lipped to reporters, to everybody else, about what the next steps will be. He has, his quote-unquote agents, meaning some Ways and Means staffers, reviewing them. There may be an executive session of the committee to review these documents. What's your take on what's happening and what might be revealed?
It's really interesting. The court decision a week ago creates unprecedented activity because I think it opens up the tax returns now that any chairman of the Ways and Means Committee can ask for anyone's tax returns without really having a legitimate legislative purpose.
But that's in the law, right? I mean, the law says you could ask for anyone's tax returns.
You can, and it had always been under the understanding it needed to be for a legitimate legislative purpose. This case broadens it, and I think that creates where in future Congresses, everyone's tax returns are available from that sense, which is not a good place to be. I am hopeful that the tax returns aren't publicly there has to be an executive session, like you said, Anna, in order to release them. If not, if any of that information's leaked right now beforehand, that's breaking the law. And there's criminal activity in regards to that. The IRS returns are currently, the tax returns are at the IRS, and they're being carefully watched. And from my understanding, Richie has access of who he is allowing to go down there and review the thousands of pages.
And if you are the chair of the Ways and Means Committee, and we'll get to that in a minute, would you ask for, whose tax returns would you ask for?
No, I don't think that any chairman of the Ways and Means Committee should ever go in and say, I want these people's tax returns. It should be a bottoms-up approach whenever you look at legislation and when you work at policies and whenever you use oversight and accountability. Is there a need for a request of those tax returns? And if so, then that's what you would do. The future chairman is going to have numerous hearings in order to figure out if there's ever a need to have a request.
Let's talk about the leadership. You and I traveled together this summer with this fall with Kevin McCarthy through your state, Missouri.
It was a wonderful state, right, Jake?
I found it to be fine. Do you?
A ringing
That's not
endorsement
wonderful.
here.
It
I
should
don't
be
know. I
wonderful.
don't know if that's quite like where we want to go.
I enjoyed the Ozarks. Now, Kevin McCarthy is struggling to get 218 votes to be Speaker. I have no idea whether he'll get there. Do you think he will get there?
Absolutely. Kevin McCarthy.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Kevin McCarthy will become Speaker. He has way over 200 people that will only vote for Kevin McCarthy. And I can't believe people's really not even reporting that, because
We said 190, but 200.
yeah,
fine.
there's over. I'm confident of the number, but there's over 200 folks that will only vote for him, and that's much stronger than 5 people saying that they won't vote for him. At the end of the day, people will get it right. He'll have 218 votes, and he will be Speaker of the House. I have no question. Think about this. Kevin McCarthy is the only member of Republican leadership in this nation that won in 2020 and won in 2022. He picked up 15 seats leading the House of Representatives in 2020 and picked up enough seats for the fourth time in 75 years to flip the House of Representatives from Democrat to Republican, even though we wanted a larger majority, but it's the same majority that Speaker Pelosi currently has. They lost seats in the Senate. We lost the White House in 20. Kevin McCarthy has earned speakership. That's why he will become Speaker.
So is it just airing of the grievances? Is that what's happening?
We are an independent party with independent opinions, and people are doing some horse trading to see what they can try to get.
All right, let's talk about
Independent parties doing a lot there.
Let's talk about your quest, right? So we talked about McCarthy's, but you are in the middle of running to be chair of the Ways and Means Committee. What's your closing argument to your colleagues?
You know, in order to know how I'll lead the committee, Anna, you have to know my background, because my background clearly pushes the direction that I will lead in policy. I grew up in a working class family. I represent a working class congressional district. Most of my life I lived in a single wide trailer, and then we upgraded to a double wide. My mother worked at a factory on the assembly line just to provide health care until that factory closed and moved their jobs to another country. And my father was an auto mechanic and a preacher. Clearly a working class background, and those values of what I taught and how I was raised is the values that will drive the policy that I have to lead this committee. And I think that's so important. The Republican Party is the party of the working class. I've said this time and time again. Since 2016, 70% of the Republican conference is new. More than 70%. We are the party of the working class. We're not the party that we were 10 years ago, and we have to make sure the policies of this committee and the chairman of this committee pushes those policies. And that is making sure that we're growing jobs, growing wages, having financial security, providing for American workers, families, and farmers. That needs to be front and center when we're looking at the policies. That is what makes me very different from the other folks in this race.
Unsaid there is that Vern Buchanan, who's your chief competitor, is much different than you. He is he's 70 years old, I believe, and very wealthy. Has his own airplane and things like that. So I think you're trying to draw a delineation from what you say is the Republican Party of 10 years ago, correct?
We're totally different. The way that we need to govern, we have to look at what will provide for those American workers, those families, those farmers, and clearly The fact that I live on my family farm in a barn dominium, that's where I live.
Barn dominium. That might be the first time I've ever heard that.
Hey, Anna has a family farm.
I also grew up on a farm, but we did not have a barn dominium.
You need Anna, come and see my barn dominium. But where I live, it's a barn that's literally like a condo. It's like combined. I built it, but my farm's been in my family for 4 generations. And the way that I was able to even buy my family farm was, it was my first year in law school and my granddad died. And my granddad died, and my dad and his brothers didn't want to keep the family farm. And so this was prior to Dodd-Frank. I was able to convince a local community banker that if they loaned me the money to purchase that family farm, that I would sell enough white oak logs off of my farm to make the payments until I graduated law school, become gainfully employed, and purchase it. That's where I live today. That's my passion. And so many individuals in this country have experienced that. I was the one who put the first running water on that farm. Growing up, I hated going to the outhouse when I was at my grandparents', but I thought that was normal. I represent the 24th poorest congressional district in the nation, but it's also the 6th most Republican. So by definition, representing Rush Limbaugh's home congressional district, being the 6th most conservative and the 24th poorest, proves that we are the party of the working class. And we have to, my colleagues and I, have to make sure the policies we move forward are not the policies of woke corporations, but the policies of working class Americans. And that's what I'll do as chairman.
Let's talk about, if there is a chair, Smith, what that looks like. What's your top priority? You just said woke capitalism. That's a term that we're hearing thrown around a lot.
When I'm chairman, Anna, let's say that. When I'm chairman, speak faith and confidence.
These views do not represent Punchbowl News. We are still, the jury is still out.
So, I have met with every Republican member of the House Ways and Means Committee, except for one. But you all can draw the conclusion of that one.
Vern Buchanan.
But I also took all of the comments that were brought forward by every member of our conference and all the task force that Leader McCarthy had over the last 18 months to come out with the commitment to America. And I took those issues and looked at them that fell in within the Ways and Means jurisdiction, whether it was tax, trade, healthcare, oversight, welfare reform, welfare programs. And I looked at those issues that the Republican Party wanted, but independents wanted, because I want to be a chairman that governs pushing policies that prove to folks that we are the party of America. And the policies that we pull forward will be policies that make the tax code incentivize energy security, food security, and healthcare security. We saw from COVID the issues of the supply chains, but we can use trade policy and tax policy to go after those different aspects. And that is a winning message to make sure that we're a strong nation, that we can take care of ourselves. And if we cannot produce those products, whether it's energy, healthcare, or within food supply, that our allies are the ones that's producing those, I think that's the approach. But you know what? I want to be a different type of chairman. If you look over the last 2 years, we've had less than 15 committee hearings in the Ways and Means Committee, and they've all been in Washington, D.C. I don't want that. I want to have committee hearings throughout the country in places that the Ways and Means Committee has never been. And I want to hear from all types of Americans across the board to hear the issues that they have when it comes to tax, trade, healthcare, welfare, government accountability. And then when we hear their ideas, try to create those create the solutions based on what they suggested or the issues that they face, and then move it. But we need to travel this country and know that the best ideas are not up here in Washington, D.C.
Make the case, excuse me, the Senate has 51 Democrats, Joe Biden in the White House. Make the case to us that what could become law, if anything, coming out of the Ways and Means Committee?
I absolutely believe there's several things. I believe that the Republican Party is the party of the working class. My friends on the other side say that the Democrat Party, that they are the party of the working class. Well, let's pass policies that are for the working class. That's legislation that truly, if both the Republicans and Democrats are for the working class, let's get it done. And I think that we can. I think you can come to a true agreement on child tax credits. You absolutely can. I also believe that you can come to an agreement on welfare reform. They did it in 1996 in divided government, and they used reconciliation in divided government to pass welfare reform with Clinton in the White House and then a Republican House and Senate. I think that we can find some common ground. For example, work requirements. What happened in the American Rescue Plan with the child tax credit was a disaster because they eliminated the work requirement. If you look at the year 2021, only 1.6 million people returned to the workforce. All of 2021. That work requirement was suspended on December 31st. According to the American Rescue Plan, just in the months of January and February alone, 1.7 million people returned to work. 1.7 million returned to work. Work requirements to the child tax credit make a huge impact. That's something as a Republican that I care greatly about. I also had the legislation during 2017 in the Tax Cut and Jobs Act that doubled the child tax credit from $1,000 to $2,000. I really think we can find common ground, just for example, on the child tax credit. We just have to understand where our differences are.
Can I just ask one more question on this, on a similar topic? Ways and Means is one of several committees that has jurisdiction over the debt limit. I think secondary jurisdiction, but still has its hands on the debt limit. Let me do this in two parts. You believe the debt limit should be raised, correct?
Yeah, we definitely have to pay our obligations. Absolutely.
And what does that look like?
Yeah, that's a great question.
We're
going to have a lot of conversations, but I truly believe that the House Republicans can pass a debt limit that can also reduce reckless spending. I believe that we could pass a debt limit that helps provide energy independence and helps lower the price of energy costs. I believe we could pass a debt limit that helps secure the border. I do think that there's aspects, and that's not uncommon. If you look at
it is uncommon. You guys did not do that under Donald Trump.
But we did in 2011, the last time we were
when there was
like
a Democrat
this,
in the White House.
And we passed a spending caps for 10 years, and there was a Democrat in the White House. I think something like that is what you have an appetite for. We're not going to default on our obligations. We're not. But I would say Joe Biden would not want to default on our obligations if we put a debt limit increase on his desk that also reduces reckless spending. I would hope that he would sign that.
Let's talk about Biden, the book tax. Is it dead, or will it see life again in the next Congress?
What tax was that?
The book tax.
Let me tell you, as a Chairman Smith, as in the Jason Smith, let's say.
Right, because there is another Smith running, Adrian Smith of Nebraska.
He is. And there's several aspects in the Inflation Reduction Act that was in there. When you look at the policies that I will care about, the policies as chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, it's going to be the policies of the working class. That means policies that will provide for more jobs, wage growth, financial security that will help American workers, families, and farmers. The book tax may be the most vocal thing that you hear in Washington, D.C., because there's a lot of high-paid lobbyists and folks that's pushing it because they don't like what just happened. But that's going to be in the back of the line in the priorities as a Jason Smith for chairman, because we have to deliver for working class Americans. That would be my last priority.
If you are not chair of Ways and Means, which you are confident of, you also are the top Republican on the Budget Committee. Is that something you're paying any mind to at this point? Theoretically, you have opposition there if you don't become Ways and Means chair. Is that something you're paying any mind to?
I will be chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee.
All right.
That is confidence. That is some supreme confidence from Jason Smith.
We'll leave it there. Thank you so much, Congressman. We really appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.